يعود يا رفيق السهر يعود متكي على المخمل تتوجع وبتروح آخر دنيا وترجع
Hello, everybody.
وتمحي حدود
There is day. It is the 20th, I think. Yeah, it's May the 20th. Almost 2 weeks now. The Israelis, the Zionist apartheid state, has been pounding the Palestinians in Gaza and surrounding and blockading and starving and wiping out buildings, and whole houses been demolished, killed under the rubbles. And the world is watching. And Uncle Joe's authorized more than 700 million worth of weapon for Israel. It's a nuclear state. It's a state that has nuclear weapons, and nobody talks about this. Everybody's talking about Iranians that they're not even weapons. I don't know what the story is and where is the mystique and fascination of this small artificial state that based on apartheid system. The only state that based on religion. Anybody just say his mother is Jewish or he's Jewish is allowed to go there and take a house of a Palestinian native that he owned this house and his family for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that logic, that apartheid logic, been accepted throughout the history of this country here. And the story of the Palestinian has not been told. This might be changing a little bit and challenging by somebody left and African American and Black Lives Matter, and the things might change a little bit, but the narrative is the same. The narrative always the same. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of the apartheid state of the Zionist state of Israel, the guy that Thomas Friedman likes to call him Bibi. Hi, Bibi. The one who ordered the destruction of Al-Gala media tower in Gaza. He's the very same one he marched in Paris Unity March in 2015 after bombing of the French magazines Charlie Hebdo with 40 other world leaders, head of states, marching in the street of Paris in solidarity with freedom of expression and more than 3 million people, marched in the street and protested, supporting the magazine's right to insult the Prophet Muhammad. Where are all these people after the destruction of the Gala Media Tower? I mean, this were the only source to tell us what is going on in Gaza. There has Associated Press and Al Arabiya, Al Jazeera, that incidentally was bombed also by the Americans during the invasion of Iraq. Where are all those people? Why are the media represent this as an equal party, and it's always reaction to Hamas rockets and on Israel's and its clashes and violence, mean violence that result in casualty on both sides and conflict between two equal sides, and which the people who were killed more than 500 in Palestinians and about only 12 in Israel. Thousands been injured. A whole family, a whole neighborhood been wiped out. And times and financial time, then CNN, they all represented as a reaction to rockets from Hamas, the militants, and the conflict is always between Israeli forces and Hamas militant and terrorists. And the big idea man, Thomas Friedman, he think it's all happening because of TikTok. And the Palestinians now, they are on TikTok and talking to each other and mobilized to resist the occupation. That's Thomas Friedman, belittling this struggle against occupation, against settler. Palestinians been fighting the white settler before even the internet existed. And Thomas Friedman telling us this is because of the internet. He also thought the Arab Spring because Arabs in Egypt and Tunisia want to have the same as we have in Dubai, shopping malls and buildings and towers. Is this what he thinks? So we are gonna talk to a Palestinian. He is working now with United Nations Refugee Work Agency. Working on informing the Americans of the demise of the Palestinians and working on presenting the Palestinian story in a more dignified way. Hani al-Madhoun, director of United Nations Refugee Work Agency. How are you? Where are you sitting? You look like you're sitting in the street.
Hey, I am in the balcony. Yes, I do want anybody to hear my girls running around.
You don't want to take any chances, huh?
Yep, life is too short.
Wow, well, I don't blame you. It's the Israelis bombing, not sparing anybody, killing family and kids and going after everybody. Where are you right now? Seriously, what city? What state?
I'm in Annandale, Virginia. We got back from Gaza 3 months ago, and it hurts. It hurts a lot because you're like, hey, I was just with these people, and then this happens.
But your job is at United Nation. This is a new thing. See, this is not arena anymore. Your job now at United Nation Refugee Work Agency. Tell us a little bit about this agency.
Correct. I work for UNRWA USA. It's a U.S. Charitable organization that supports the work of the UN agency. So we are not the UN agency that does the work for Palestine refugees. I work in consider it sort of like the U.S. chapter of that organization. My role is to fundraise and tell the stories from Gaza and other places, because the UNRWA is an organization that's been in existence for 73 years. That's not normal. It was supposed to be a temporary solution, but in the absence of political solution, the organization continues to find itself needed, and not just needed. It's the organization that the Palestinians, even when they're being bombed, they hold on to, right? People take shelter, and right now 50,000 Palestinian refugees are taking shelters in UNRWA schools and clinics because they get a sense of safety, because they think, hey, if the UN gonna get bombed, the world in trouble. So that's sort of what puts people to sleep at night if they stay at UNRWA facilities. And, many of them lost their homes. So I'll stop there.
Refugees been refugee for years, and somebody even blamed the United Nations for hosting this and try to coexist with Israel's occupation and help them out to continue with this assault on Palestinian homes and lands, and having those refugees is kind of keeping that apartheid occupation going, and instead of just having this crisis out there on the front and for the world to see, just heading there under the United Nations camp and whatever, blanket and a tent, and people don't see it anymore. The camera goes home, and the misery of the Palestinian doesn't go away.
Yeah, there are a lot of opinions about the UN and the role they play. It's a situation where you damn if you do, you damn if you don't. While I know that my family in Gaza and the Palestinians in Lebanon and Syria and Jordan, if they are mad at UNRWA, it's because it's not enough. And, we agree it's never going to make everything go away. We are waiting where, I mentioned the story of my grandfather who in 48 left a chicken in the stove thinking he's going to come back in a few hours to eat. And it's been 73 years. So that's the reality of the displacement of the Palestine refugees. And, I grew up benefiting from the programs of UNRWA. There's teachers. My dad taught for the UN school. My grandfather was a sanitation worker. He loved that job so very much. So there is also job creation programs that UNRWA provides. Now, by guidelines, we have to be neutral. We're not there to shame the bad actors. That's not our role. If you get involved in that, your services suffer. If you speak out and say something wrong or somebody's doing things, then they don't let the shipments come in, or they think you're not neutral. You're party of this. So in order for us to be effective, for UNRWA and the UN agencies to be effective, as frustrating as this is, and I hear the frustration as a Palestinian American, I do think that there is an organization, there is no one organization that could tackle this on all fronts, right? Our battle is in the media, in Congress, in relief, in development, in justice. So the role I'm playing is to make sure that we try to provide assistance where helpful. That's in my professional life. You follow what I do about building awareness and telling those stories. And, you can't watch what's happening in Gaza and not feel hurt inside and in some sense feel helpless. Like, that you're sort of funding the bombs and you're funding, and you're also doing good things. So it becomes a little bit like you don't know what to do. And people really feel helpless. They advocate with their members of Congress. They try to do things that, rally, they try to share, tweet, all welcome. People in Gaza and Sheikh Jarrah, their hearts get warm when they see the support. And, imagine if you're in a position to provide water for families in Gaza who are sheltering at a school. Imagine if you're able to provide meals, or somebody who's struggling with COVID-19, they need medications. And on top of that, they're being bombed and the clinic is being bombed. So you want to figure out how to navigate that. And I'll stop before I say things too passionate.
Is this somebody, or this is something, a Palestinian thing that you have to look around you and see if somebody's coming? If you want to take a few minutes to secure the area there, it's fine with me. Is that racket? Is that,
I need
is
1
that
minute.
possible?
Give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds.
Take your time. I understand what you're going through. The Israelis missiles spare nobody, even in America. This is Hani Madhoun. He's the director of United Nations Refugee Work Agency. He's really an amazing individual. His spirit never gives up, and he doing his best to try to provide dignity to the Palestinians and inform the Americans of the plight of the Palestinians. So how are we okay now?
Yeah, for some reason we moved into this new home like 2 months ago. and there must be some military airbase. So there's a lot of helicopters.
Oh
Wallahi,
no, not again.
wallahi,
Come on,
you may hear
honey.
them. You may hear them. Well, like there's some army installation nearby, and I'm not trying to be funny. This is, you may hear the helicopters, but
It,
the serious note, I've lost people I know in the latest round
of
of conflict. Neighbors.
all
Yes,
the places in America, is what you picked?
I didn't know that. We moved to Annandale and helicopters are flying all day. I see
Who's
them now. It's just there might be some army base or
you
something.
need to have a conversation with your real estate agent, honey. You don't need this anyway. Uh, I mean, how your job is, I know, provide dignity, some help to the refugees because they need major needs. They need basic needs, shelter, food, electricity, and all of this. But also, one of your job or mission is to inform the American people of the plight of the Palestinian. How hard is that is?
It is frustrating because you get people in Facebook banned for saying something pro-Palestine. Then you get people almost losing their jobs for tweets and things. It's becoming a lot organized and hostile because there's deep pockets funding this. So you get worried about those aspects, but you also know that there's a silent majority that is rooting for you, they're praying for you. But when it comes to the topic of, sending weapons and things like that, people feel like that doesn't represent them. And I don't know. I have hope every round of struggle. People think, oh, there is more sympathy. But I hope that translates into something because a lot of good people are struggling right now in Gaza. And a lot of good people died or hurt or their homes been destroyed. And I think Gaza deserves better. And the strategy the last 15 years of choking Gaza hasn't really worked. And just by evidence of that, every few years you have to go to war. I think that requires a fresh thinking. Opening up. You followed my story. How hard was it for me to get out of Gaza? Right? It took us
Well,
months and then calling members of Congress and the embassies no help. So you get a lot of that and you become frustrated because you have a US passport you've earned, you're proud of, you travel the world. But when it comes to going home, you feel like, no, you're still going to be mistreated just like everybody else. And there is equity in that, but ultimately you feel you're abandoned when it comes to the, Gaza, Palestine.
what what is the indiscriminate bombardment and attack and assault on Gaza and building hospitals, research center, media towers, neighborhood. How do you help when the electricity doesn't work, hospital doesn't work, there is no place to go? So, what kind of help are we talking about?
Oh, and even worse, all major roads in Gaza have been destroyed strategically to chop up Gaza so people can move from one area to another. So how do you bring a food truck into Gaza on a damaged road? That just doesn't, nobody likes that. Nobody supports that. But there's a lot of, whispers. And, UNRWA tries to do the basics right now is food, shelter, water, and basic necessities because mattresses, blankets. Can you imagine if this happened in the cold winter? People don't have much to cover themselves with. So that's a little bit of a struggle. And UNRWA been through these rounds before. They try to be as helpful as they can. And remember, at least 2 staff members of UNRWA get hurt. And what makes UNRWA unique, get hurt in this conflict, many lost homes and neighbors, is that the refugees themselves are doing the work. So it's not somebody from outside. They're actual Palestinian refugees who live in these neighborhoods who try to serve their community. Ultimately, we're trying to double our efforts for urgent assistance. Mental health, can you imagine the trauma? Now, a lot of kids going through that, and I've seen it in my own family with my nephews and nieces. And this is not new. We've gone through this in the last round, but we have good training. Luckily, school is out, so we're not worried about kids, getting an education or disrupting to their education. And that's, that's just another problem. And UNRWA was a big player. Like 70% of the people in Gaza receive aid in food assistance, healthcare, education. And again, it's sort of like a quasi-government, but it's a big actor. If you're underfunded, like, the previous US administration cut the funds, and they've mentioned things like, hey, we want to dissolve UNRWA. And ultimately they did this, and they figured, no, that's going to create so much instability. And there's a lot of lies that people say about UNRWA that's, just like curriculum issues and things like that. That's untrue, but I'll stop there.
Well, you've said a lot, and you throw a lot of things at us here to kind of chew on. But I was just reading a report from the Israelis, Harris, talking about why the Israelis are targeting a whole family, make sure the whole family will be wiped out or killed. You see a lot of cases. Talk about 24 family, the father, the mother, the kids, they all went out. And they were talking about something I did not know, that the interior minister in Palestine, I don't know if even they have one, they have to provide the names of the Palestinians who lives where and what and how, so the security of the Israelis know every single Palestinian's name and how many in what house and what building, and they still bomb this building in as suspicion there is a Hamas or whatever the case might be. So what is when we talk about security, what security are we talking about? The Israelis know everything about what is going on in Gaza, and they have a long reach anytime with impunity.
I mean, yeah, they control the national registry. So any Palestinian child is born, in order for you to exist, you have to alert the Israelis that this person is the son of this person or the daughter of this person. So they control that national registry. I mean, you could be a Palestinian, marry a Russian person, but then that person would never be a Palestinian unless the Israelis give him a national ID number, right? So I think that's what the report probably was talking about. My girls, they wouldn't be allowed to Gaza because they're Americans unless they get Palestinian ID. And if for us to get the Palestinian ID, we file with the office, they report to the Israelis, and the Israelis decide to grant them or add them to our ID. Now, when we go into Egypt, the Egyptian government says, show me that these kids have Palestinian ID. If we did not produce the IDs, they would not let us complete the trip to Gaza. But on the flip side, when you go to the US, when you go to try to go to, there's a helicopter flying, do you hear it?
I hope it's not for you.
It's only
We don't need that, honey. We don't need that.
It's a trauma.
Yeah.
My wife survived the 2009 war, so she has a lot of scars from that. Luckily, I've missed the last half a dozen of armed conflict and
And
aggression.
your wife is a Palestinian.
Yes, she's born in Algeria, Palestinian. I'm born in the Emirates, Palestinian. So we met in Gaza.
Wow. Wow, that's a great story. And how many kids do you have?
Just two, Zaina and Maryam. Zaina's 5 and Maryam is 4.
Do they want to talk to us? What did they talk about now?
They're having pizza right now. Maybe some other time. That's why I ran out to get the pizza out of the oven. That's what it is. But they're a little bit worried about their cousins because they just met them and they get to know them, and they just because of Ramadan at night, people stay up, so they talk to each other. We couldn't talk the last nights of Ramadan because of the violence and the bombs and the kids shaking. So that's something we have to talk to our kids about, how much you want them to know. And you approach it in a way where you're not preaching hatred. It's difficult, but you have to really be rational about it and just tell the narrative without, it is rather complicated.
It is rather complicating. You're doing a great job on a professional level. You're doing a great job as a father. Really, you made us proud, Hani, and I know, trying to joke with you a little bit, relax. I know you're surrounded by a military base there, and it is a tragic a story that has not been told in this country on so many levels. And we wish you well. We wish you that your story be heard and have the support. And so, if your message to the American people, if they want to help or at least you want to educate themselves, what you go on your website. What else is about?
I came to Minneapolis many times for Dear Gaza Party with our friend Carmen Sabri. They do these little events. If you want to do something like Gather for Gaza event, would love to hear from you. If you want to advocate on behalf of UNRWA with members of Congress, or you want to donate, UNRWAUSA.org. Make sure you put USA, UNRWAUSA.org. And, there's stories, you could always reach out to me. And, your solidarity is needed. And eventually it's going to grow into something that will have a real act that will protect people like children, right? There's 61 children who died. Some of them go to UNRWA schools. Nobody's advocating that these people should die, but people are silent. Anyway, been a pleasure talking to you. You're doing a great job. يعطيك العافية. And anything.
Hani El-Madhoun, director of United Nation Refugees Work Agency, he is talking to American people about the plight of the Palestinians, and hopefully we'll hear from you. We'll hear a different story soon. And good luck, Hani.
Salam.
Salam.
يا عود يا رفيق السهر يا عود متكي على المخمل تتوجع وبتروح آخر دنيا وترجع تكتب وتمحي حدود يا